Having learned a good amount of lessons from music school as well as from the real world, I wanted to talk today about the big differences between the two. I've heard some of these questions and statements for years now. Should I go to music school? Is music school worth it? I wish I went to music school. I'd be better if I went to music school. My answers to these are always maybe, it can be, why, and not necessarily. Like a lot of things, it's really what you make of it, but there are some very real differences. If you like what you see here, please like, comment, subscribe. It really helps the channel. I really appreciate it. And let's get into it. Number 1, repertoire. At USC, where I got my master's, they have a list of required repertoire for you to learn every semester. This is a great idea, especially because it's based in a truth. If you want to get good at something, you have to do that thing. Do it, know it, experiment with it, etc. Before attending USC, I probably had around 15 jazz tunes memorized. Over my time at USC, I added probably around 40 tunes to that repertoire, which really helped deepen my understanding of the genre. That seems obvious, but it's a common oversight. Also, what's neat is that there's an identifiable concept to each one of the tunes in the required repertoire. And the atmosphere of teachers and fellow students bringing up those concepts in discussion really helps with different perspectives on how to approach them. In the real world, I also wanted to get better at jazz and would take lessons every now and again and buy books on jazz concepts. Even with books and lessons, though, I still felt so far behind and like I wasn't advancing quick enough in comparison to the jazz players I knew who had just been living and breathing it for years. You'd think I could just get a jazz gig and get good at it there. Going to school where I got an opportunity to suck and then get better at jazz is a luxury that is not afforded on a gig. Also, having my own project, session work, and cover gigs really helped me avoid burnout. It was really nice to have places where I was more experienced with the music, so I didn't just suck at all the music I was trying to play. It's a weird thing to have to keep in perspective, but every now and again at school, if I'm only playing music that I don't really know a lot about, the confidence can take a big hit. So keeping that balance between music I suck at and music I know well really helped me out. Number 2. Something I found to be more true while at school is the idea of music as a meritocracy. If you're an amazing player, sometimes it's not so important at school if you shower regularly or have a good look or vibe. You'd have to be a pretty phenomenally bad hang not to be called for something school-related if you're at the top of your class. Meanwhile, in the real world, there's plenty of people who are absolutely phenomenal at their instrument who don't get called as often. And plenty of people who are super average who get called all the time just because they're great to be around. For some, this is a really hard pill to swallow. Being able to shred over giant steps beautifully is an accomplishment. It's just not needed for just about any high-profile gig. Being able to play 4 to 6 chords per song with great rhythm and feel and without getting bored will take you a lot further on a pop gig, obviously. There's an idea that if you play the hardest music, then you are the best musician, and the best musicians get the best gigs, and none of that is true. Number 3, consequences. If you don't exactly nail something at music school, but you try really hard and make some sort of personal progress, there's a chance you'll still get a good grade. I know personally as a teacher, I'd rather see commitment to the assignment and personal growth over smugness and natural talent. So there's really very few consequences to not nailing something. If I hire someone to play on my album and they come late to the recording session and don't nail the songs, I probably won't be calling them in the future. The same goes for a gig where if I hire someone and they only learn half the set list and decide, I'm just going to play the rest by ear, then I probably won't be calling them for the future. Those are much more real consequences than a B. Number 4. 3 things kind of lumped together. Community, enthusiasm, and opportunities. In the real world, it'd be advantageous to find a community of musicians and or a scene that caters to the genre that you love and or excel in. Outside of working at a music store, this is the best way to surround yourself with people who love music as much as you do. And especially if it's a scene that you love or excel in, it'll be a group of people who really appreciate and understand what you do. At music school, it's a little easier to build that community because everyone who's there obviously loves music. When school is in person, you'd see them at the dorm, cafeteria, class, jams. Remotely, you see them at the same Zoom calls, or you'd also have group projects that you'd have to be accountable to each other on. I hope I was able to illustrate some of the big differences, but hopefully not discourage you from going down either path. Both have their pros and cons, and both really have no guarantees. Fortunately, if you couldn't go to music school for one reason or another, at this point in time, there's so many online resources for you to get the same knowledge. There's so many people who love music who just want to talk to someone else who loves music. So those are some of the big differences I've noticed between the two. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see y'all next week.